I'm going to tell you why real voiceover artists are not worried about AI voiceover. Stay tuned for that. But first, I'm going to guess someone told you that you have a great voice and you should do voiceover, and that it's probably going to be pretty easy money. Well, it's not. This career is not easy, especially to break into. But with these tips, you can actually have a fighting chance. This isn't a reading competition. And this is the hardest thing for radio folk to get into their heads. Being a voiceover artist is an acting job, not a reading job. In this moment, you should be realizing that your sweet voice doesn't really matter as much now. If you get the opportunity to actually perform at this job, it will be because of your acting skill, and you won't be reading scripts. You will be acting them. Think about it. Actors do it all the time. They get a script, then they apply their personality to it. That's what you need to focus on to getting work as a voice actor. And yes, it is a skill that you need to pick up. That all said, some people are more prone to this skill set, and for some it might not be that big of a leap. But before you huff at this video and shut it off, start looking at this as a career. You don't learn a career by showing up and looking eager. You do it by going through the learning process. Start this part now. Trust me. As long as you've started, you're well on your way. Now, there are a ton of different kinds of voiceover work, but one thing is rather common. The gigs that pay you the big money are probably not going to be recorded in your bedroom under the covers. Sure, established VO actors might do this in a pinch, but a good portion of their time is spent in recording studios, either theirs or someone else's. So that $1,000 mic you've been waiting to afford so you can kick all this off has been a complete waste of time. You will be much better served dropping money into your environment. You cannot be a voice actor in a room with reverb. Parking yourself in a closet to record isn't out of the question here. Getting acoustic treatment for your walls, even if they're the walls in the aforementioned closet, is important. You need to invest in your studio before you invest in that sweet U87. Also, generally speaking, a decent preamp is more your concern to start anyways. Make sure you grab yourself something with a low EIN. Something between neg 128 dBu and neg 130. Now that number might sound like Greek to some, but trust me on this. Also, thanks to some awesome advancements in the past few years, you can get interfaces with decent performance for a pretty decent price. I'll link a couple below if you feel a tad behind the ball there. As for your first mic, well, I do have another video up here with some great first-time voiceover mics, and none of them will put you in a massive hole to start. Now, this is the one that will separate the serious from the not so serious. You know, the ones that were thinking that reading off paper was an easy gig. Feel free to grab a loot bag on your way out the door if that was you. You see, when you're a voiceover artist, you're your own company. You're the talent producer, you're the financial officer, the sales rep, the manager, mailroom employee, agent. You get the point. Well, before you start breathing heavily into that microphone, you may want to start with a plan. Who are you focusing on? Who's your ideal client? Make a list. Make it a big one. Score a gig or two with Bodalgo, get a few under your belt, and then, well, hustle. Reach out to those companies you earmarked and start selling. Cold calls, email, whatever you have to do. By the way, best bet is find out who the creative director is before you start shipping off audio. All the while, you're working on your craft. You're cranking out scripts through a mic. Look back on some of your older stuff the odd time to cringe and remind yourself how far you've come. And once you actually have a few bucks saved up, let's talk about how you actually launch your career. Okay, I think it's time to bring in the professional. And every successful VO artist, especially in the beginning of the career, does this. You need someone to produce your first demo if you have any hopes of career success beyond FIVRR. And I'm not gonna lie, it isn't cheap, but this is where your career either takes off or it falls flat. Here's where we find out if you actually learned how to be an actor. The people that do this are either VO actors themselves or they're producers who are skilled enough to evoke a great read out of an artist. This is the point that you get a sellable demo or you're instructed to go back to step one for more training. These people know what is needed in a demo to score you a job or many jobs. And from the coaching perspective, they also know the next steps in your career. Take their coaching to heart and learn as much as you can from them. It's your start. And don't worry, a few jobs down the line, you're gonna be hanging out with them again to refresh that demo. One caution I do have here though, you need to do your own due diligence with this step. There is a ton of snake oil out there when it comes to these coaches and producers. While this step does seem to cost a bit, there is a lot of value in it. Don't cut corners. Someone willing to do the same job for much less will probably offer much less value. Please do not cut this corner. And no, I'm not going to recommend anyone here because that would look a bit shady. But they're out there. Just make sure you're doing your research. And finally, I should speak on the whole FIVRR thing I brought up earlier. And yes, I will tell you the same thing that everyone else is saying. Yes, you can make money on FIVRR. And yes, there are actual voice artists on FIVRR. But the ones making the actual money, they didn't start there. And you shouldn't either. But what about all that AI talk at the beginning of the video? How does that impact all this, and what does it have to do with FIVRR? You see, voiceover artists or actors have nothing to fear from AI voice because, remember, at the beginning, I told you, it has nothing to do with your voice. It's the personality that you can act that will get you the work. And that's the one thing that AI does not have the ability to do, at least not yet. This is why you need to separate yourself from the readers of scripts on websites like FIVRR. And remove that mindset that you're getting paid to read. Why would a company pay a horrible reader to read a script when they can get an AI to do it sometimes better? The literal thousands of voiceover readers are actually pushing AI VO work forward just by offering a crappy product for a crappy price. Don't be a part of that movement. Do you think David Attenborough worries about AI voice, or perhaps Morgan Freeman? No, because while they have amazing voices, it's their ability to emote to the viewers that gets them work. This is why having a great voice isn't enough to score that sweet deal. Put in the work. This is a lot of work, trust me, but it is so worth it. Oh, and if you're still here at this point, you get a bonus. Go to voiceover conventions. They happen a lot, and while you most likely won't walk away with a job, you will walk away with some proven approaches to getting work. And also a network, which can come in handy. By the way, here's that voiceover Mike's video I was telling you about earlier.